Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about the best camera that you can buy today for car photography or photography in general. So the camera I'm talking about is the Canon Rebel T7. So this camera I've been using for the last 7 months or so, and it has been an excellent camera. One of the pros being that it's very cheap. I got mine for around $400, which is very cheap. $400 is really not that much money if you compare it to other cameras that's on the market today. And the capabilities of this camera is excellent. The second pro being that it is 24 megapixel. So 24 megapixel is a lot of megapixel if you're just upgrading from phone, because I used to be on a phone, but I wanted to work with clients, so I had to go to this camera because it's the cheapest option with the most megapixel. So, I upgraded and the photos look great. The clients are happy. And the third being that it's very basic. So you really want basic at this price point, because the reason being that if you have a basic camera, the functions are very simple. It's very rudimentary. It's like the bare bone, the minimum. So that pushes you as a photographer to be more creative with your shots. You can go to a better location, you can find a better lighting, or you can shoot in a different angle that you have never thought before. So that way you get more creative because your camera is very limited. And let's talk about some of the cons, because there are some. This camera does not focus very well on, for rolling shots, like moving subjects. The reason being that it's a very basic camera. Some more expensive cameras, they have more sophisticated autofocus system that tracks the subject as it moves. But this camera, it can't do that because it's very basic. For the price, you can't really get that. So I wouldn't expect this from this camera. If you have to shoot, rolling objects or moving objects, I would not get this camera because it doesn't focus very well. But you can work around it, because I've been doing rolling shots with this camera. So what you have to do is that you have to focus for every shot. You can't just focus and then click, click, click. You have to focus, click, focus, click. So it just adds a bit more work, but it's completely doable if you can work around it. The second con being is that this camera does not do well in low light conditions. What I mean by that is that some higher end cameras, they have a higher dynamic range. What I mean by that is they can gather more light. Even though the photo might look dark, they can gather, if you bump up the exposure in editing, you can generally get those details back. But this camera, since it's a very basic camera, if you're shooting in low light handheld without a tripod, it might be a very big problem, because those dark areas, when you bring up the exposure, it's going to be very grainy, very fragmented. So I would not recommend if you're shooting at nighttime with this camera, because this just does not do well. I've tried it even during, like, when the sun is kind of setting, like that dark area, like that dark time. It doesn't work unless you boost up the ISO, which is going to make your photos even more grainier. So if you shoot in low light condition most of the time, or indoors with high ISO settings, I would recommend just get the higher end ones like the Canon 90D or the Sony cameras. They're very good at low light conditions because they have a higher dynamic range. But for the most part, if you're shooting in sunny conditions like I do, like on weekends, on sunsets, or like noontime, so those times are great for this camera, because this camera doesn't have to do much work. You can bump the ISO down. So you kind of have to work around your schedule to find the best timing for this camera. So you can work around these limitations of this camera. It's completely doable. I've done it. But if you're shooting mainly in indoors or low light, this is not a good camera. So anyway, thank you guys for watching, and let me know if you agree with me in this video about this camera, and let me know if you have this camera, how did it do for you, because I'd like to know, because I've been using this for 7 months, as you know, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this camera, because it's always good to know. So like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching.